Oh, I wanted to start another section of my channel here, and it's going to be questions and answers. So in your comments in my YouTube, if you have a question, lots of times people have a question. And instead of trying to answer it in a comment format on YouTube, I'm going to start taking these questions and I'm thinking about doing this anyway. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to start doing a YouTube about the question, if I think it's a question worth doing something with. So that's what we're going to do here. Somebody had a question: how do you formulate the question in a reading? And that's a good question. How do you formulate? And I would say that you're not going to find any material on tarot cards that help you formulate questions. If I go into it at all, I don't know if I have or not. It would be an essential tarot somewhere in the book, or bare bones tarot. I might talk about it here or there in some way. What you can do is my Celtic cross card spread helps you formulate the question. Because what I do with that is numbers 1 and 2 position are the question itself, which allows us to really look into the question deep with these 2 cards. And the number 7 position in my cross is the client's own perception of their question. So these 3 cards working together help you fine-tune a way of looking at the question. I do talk about somewhere here and there in my work about how can we rephrase the question, refine it, look at it deeper. And so it's an important thing to do. With your biggest concern, if you're a professional reader, you're not going to have much opportunity to be formatting questions as much as you're going to be given questions to answer. People are going to come to you with a question that they want answered, and they're going to pay you money to hear an answer about that situation. And as a reader, or as just anybody, you don't even have to be an experienced reader. Sometimes you have the ability to see beyond their question and see that the question they're asking really isn't the problem here. The question that they need to really be looking into is something different, something deeper. And that just comes with experience. And I would say life experience. And as a reader, you're going to see a lot of patterns with that. People are lonely, want to know when they're going to get involved in a relationship. That's one. So what's the real question there? You know, is this the right person for me? And really what you need to be doing is looking into the question deeper. And you're not going to really be able to convince the person if you try to go deeper with that. They just want to know, is this, whatever the question is this the right person? Is this my soulmate? Or are we going to get married? Or, that's a good one. Are we going to get married? Are we ever going to get married? Well, why do you want to get married? What do you think you're going to gain from that? Well, I don't want to be old and lonely. I want to guarantee that this is going to work, or I want commitment or something. So there's lots of times people's motives to their question are really show what the real question is, what the real issue is with that person. And lots of times people don't want to see the real issue. And what you can do with that is really all you can do is plant seeds. And say, well, we'll look and see if this is the person for you, if he's going to ask you to marry him. But really, you don't have to be married. You can be happy without being married. Um, maybe it'd be good to take your time with this. And that's a seed. Then they realize, well, maybe it's not the most important thing with this is getting married. And you can still look into, are we going to get married? And you can say, okay, the next couple of years, he's going to ask you to get married. But you planted a seed that is a really, why do you want to get married? And they leave there with that in their head, thinking, well, maybe it's not that important. So usually you're not going to rephrase the question for the reader, for the seeker, I mean, because they're pretty much stuck on what they're looking to find an answer for. But what you can do is you can answer that question, but you could also plant some seeds, like I say, about, is it really that important? And that can help them a lot. Another thing that really helps a lot is if you can, well, rephrasing the question can really change the way the person sees it in some ways, but usually it's just going to plant some seeds. If you, the way things are said, and an NF personality type will get this naturally, just comes to them. And a lot, I would say half the readers out there are going to be NFs, if you know what I'm talking about, a personality type, NF personality. And they just make great diplomats. So the way you word it, sometimes you could just reverse things in the way it's worded and it'll change everything. I use the example of the question, a person goes to a priest. Young man goes to a priest and says, Father, is it okay if I drink while I'm praying? Can I drink while I'm praying? And the priest is going to say, well, that's not really a good time to be drinking. You know, you're trying to communicate with a higher power. It's a solemn thing. So no, it's not a good time to be drinking. You just reverse things, though. If you were to say to a priest, Father, is it okay if I pray when I drink? Is it okay if I pray when I drink? You say it that way, the priest is going to say, absolutely, it's a good time to pray. You're still talking about the same thing, drinking and praying at the same time. You just reverse the order. And it changes the whole way it looks. Okay, if I'm drinking while I'm praying, it's okay if I pray when I drink. So if you say, the way you say things to people will have an effect on them. And what you're looking into has an effect too, which is why I think it's good to format a card spread that is useful to questions you're looking into, no matter what the question is. And I think I've done that with my Celtic cross. I think it's important to have things that you're looking into. In a tarot reading, you're looking into certain specific things that are important. With me, it's the four aspects of what, why, how, and when. What is the real question we're looking into? Why do you want this in your life? How are we going to attain it? And when is the best time to act to get the best results? Timing. You could answer a lot of questions very constructively, very usefully, looking at those four aspects. And I try to gear my Celtic cross with those four aspects in mind. What is the question? I look at positions 1 and 2. And I also look at 7, which to me is the seeker's perception of their question. Why do you want this in your life? I look at the things they're doing right now with this, which is usually positions 1 or 3, 4, 3 and 4. The things they're trying to do, the actions they're taking is 3. And what they're immediately trying to achieve in 4. And I squeeze that into why. Why are you doing these things? What do you think you're going to get from them? And I also look at 9, position 9 as why. And that's the real why right there, is because position 9 is the purpose of this whole quest. What are you planning on getting out of this? Why do you want this? And lots of times you could format or restructure questions, sometimes slightly with a seeker, by telling them, you have them visualize the position 9, the purpose of this, have them visualize, okay, if this was complete, visualize how that would be. Is this what you want? Lots of times they're so busy with positions 3 and 4 that they don't really look and see, okay, well, if I actually do get this, it's like the car chasing, the dog chasing the car. What you do when you get a hold of this thing? And the time to think about it, maybe they're thinking, you know what, maybe I really should slow down with this. And it gives them something to look at there. And then how are we going to achieve this? I look at positions 5, 6, and 10. 5 is the an asset, something the client's got going for them that they can use. This could be other people, it could be knowledge, it could be a talent, an influence that they have in some way. And then 6 is an opportunity to still come in the future that they should be watching for, that will help them move along with this. And then 10 is a final result, or as you do succeed on this, or as you do move forward, you could expect to see this also. And that could be improvements, it could be accomplishment, completion, or it can be more pleasant surprises. It could also be some more challenges that you need to make yourself ready for. So it's just, as you do move forward, progressing with this goal, 10 is other things, or a clearer picture of what's going to be like in the future with this situation. It could be success. It could be some pleasant surprises that you don't even know about yet. It could be some more challenges that you don't know about yet. And that's how I see 10. And then I have position 8 is when. What I mean by when is what has to be a line, what has to be in line, what has to be in place before you do move forward. The timing of when to act on this. So it's usually not a date. It's what has to be done. Or are you ready to move forward now? Maybe you should move forward now before things change. Times look real good right now for you. And it looks like things are going to be changing. So you better act. Or it's not a good time to move forward right now. Wait until this happens or this happens, then act on this. You got a better chance of success. Timing. That's what, why, how, and when. You could throw in who and where if you wanted to, but usually with a reading, you're not interested in who. You already know who if it's an issue with a person, and where is not really that important either. And you can still put those into play with looking into what, why, how, and when too. You can look at where, you can say, well, there's an opportunity coming in position 6. It's going to be the company picnic, or it's going to be this date I'm going on, or it's going to be the test I'm taking on the 15th or the 24th or whatever. That's an opportunity. That could be considered a where. Who could be an asset? Who's an asset right now? Who could be number 10, position 10? Something still coming into the picture. So, but breaking the question apart into elements like this really makes a difference, and it helps you formulate the question. But formulating a question is something that I think you can't really put as an application with the tarot cards in some way. It's a good idea to learn how to do it. And I think it's important to keep it in mind as important. Because even if the person you're reading doesn't want to hear a formulated rephrase of their question, it helps you to know this is what's really going on with this person. Although they want to hear this, I will tell them this, but I'm going to keep what's really going on in mind as well. And try to answer their question in a way that they're happy, it's useful, but also keeping in mind for them to keep in mind, maybe they should take a look at this in a different way. Just take a look at it. Like I said, you're not going to force them to change their thinking if they're wrong on something, but you can put that suggestion in their head. And maybe a week later, maybe a day later, they'll might have a little bit of a slant in the way they're seeing their question because of that. And you'll hear things like, last time you read me, there's something you said that hit home, and basically it's probably what that seed is that I'm talking about. So they do retain it. And they do think about it. Like I said, think of it as planting seeds. Looking at the correct question or having an idea of what you're really looking into is a key factor with this. Again, that's what is the question? But to show you how much of a range these 4 aspects can have, if you wanted to know, I look at why, what, why, how, and when. So if you wanted to know why, you can look at why do you want this in your life? You can also look at why as why was it done this way? If you're talking about looking at something that happened, and why did it happen? So these words can be used in different approaches to questions, no matter whatever kind of question it is. As a reader, though, you're going to, as a pro reader, you'll see that that's the biggest, you're not going to have too much opportunity to really formulate the question in some drastic way, because the seeker already is very convinced about what they want to find an answer to. And they might not be interested in looking at things in the bigger picture. And they're the one getting the reading. Again, you could suggest things. You can say, are you sure this is what you want to do? Another good example is, and you'll find this out as you read, lawsuits. Should I sue some company you work for, or some person that did something wrong to you? Should I sue? And usually lawsuits, you're going to find drag on, and they really take a long time, and that person gets stuck in that space. And they would have been better off if it's really, this is really something major. Usually, and you probably have lawyers tell you the same thing. You really want to do that? You really want to sue over this? Because they know what's involved. They know that's gonna be involved with that. So certain things like that, you're gonna find you might want to try to convince them, don't bother suing, but that doesn't mean they're not going to do it anyway. They're going to find out you were probably right 6 years from now, 6 years of aggravation, and they're still in the courts. So I've just seen too many lawsuits over time, and the person that's doing the suing usually doesn't end up happy afterwards. So if you can move on with your life, put this behind you, especially if your suit is for revenge. Revenge is not a good thing to pursue. Anyway, you'll see patterns. And you'll also be surprised at how little people can really understand about their own direction and how they're looking at one particular stage of their question and not beyond it. Like I said, the dog chasing the car. What's he going to do when he catches that car? People are like that. And they don't think about, all they know is they want this right now. They got it. Might not be happy with it. So it'd be better walking away. Sometimes they are. Sometimes. So people are interesting as far as their perception of their own world and their own concerns at this time. So I thought I'd bring that up. Formulating a question is a good idea. One thing you can do to help formulate a question, try reversing something in the question. What if you go this way? Try rephrasing the question. You might give some ideas. And you can also look into what, why, how, and when with that. Why do you want this in your life? How are you planning on really getting this? Is it feasible? And why do you want it? Visualize what it would be like if you had it. What are you planning on getting out of this? Benefiting? How long are you willing to pursue this quest and when? How long have you been pursuing this quest? You'll see patterns with that. Relationships are a good example of that. Relationship patterns, you'll see they're with somebody who's going through, they're separated. They're going to get divorced. And so they're with them for a year and there's no divorce yet. And then 2 years and they're still hanging in there. And then 3 years. They don't have to be married. The person doesn't have to be married. Maybe they're just not committed. Maybe there's no marriage or there's no commitment, or they're hanging there with this. And this person leaves them hanging for 3 years for whatever the reasons. Work, I'm too busy at work, or I got to move, or what, I got to move, come to Chicago or whatever. And so they're hanging in this limbo state. And after about 3 years, now it starts to become scary because you've invested 3 years of loneliness for this person, and it becomes harder to walk away because you've invested a lot of time. So what does a reader tell them? You could tell them it's a good idea to walk away, but they're probably not going to do it. Or if they were going to do it, they're already planning on doing it before they sat down with you. And they just want a confirmation. So you could tell them, your best thing you could do it, maybe just, and you wouldn't tell them to walk away. You would tell them, maybe the best thing you could do with this is just back away for a while. That's how you put it. And tell them, we'll end this. Call them up, tell them, I never want to see you again. No, you don't say that. You say, why don't you see, it'll be good for you to just back away from this for a while, give yourself some room, give yourself some time to think about it, and distance yourself from this person for a little while. So that's not formulating a question. It's also not, it's the way you word your advice. It's important, I think, more important. And if you tell somebody to leave this person, they're not going to leave them. Tell them, it'd be good if you could just back away for a little bit. See him, give him a couple weeks, just back away. Give yourself some time to think. Right now, this person is not good for you. Right now. Don't say this person is not good for you. Say right now, this person is not good for you. They'll listen to that more. You'll see patterns as a reader that help you to reformulate the question because you know the path they're going down. You can see it. I've seen this so many times. It's amazing how common all of our issues are. They're very common. If you have people that are coming to you because they're lonely and want to know when they're going to get involved in a relationship, they need to have a relationship with themselves. And I know that as a reader. You're not, if they're not happy with themselves, they're not going to attract a relationship. They can walk into a room and people are going to look at them like they're the invisible man. They're just not going to see them. I don't care what they look like. They're invisible because they got an energy about them that's negative. They're not happy. And they're not happy because they're lonely. So they don't meet anybody. Now they're more unhappy. And that people just sense that. So, and this is a pattern you'll see. As soon as people start to get comfortable with being alone, they're okay with it now. And they're happy. I got my own place. I'm settled in. I'm through with my divorce or whatever, breakup, whatever it is, and I'm adjusted and I'm happy. I'm doing good. I got things going on, and they're single. They're alone. They're not involved with anybody, but they're happy. As soon as they get to that point, that's when somebody taps them on the shoulder, because now they walk into that room happy. And if you're happy, you're going to attract people are going to want that energy. Say, who's that? I want the big smile on her face. And then that person comes to you for a reading because they're saying, for years, I was looking for somebody. I was lonely and nobody was around. And I finally got comfortable with being alone. And now I'm settled in and I got things the way just like I wanted. And I'm happy. And now this person comes into my life and I think he's perfect. He's wonderful. I don't know what to do about it. And you're going to get that reading a lot. The same situation. Different people sitting across from you, but the same situation. It's true. Another common one is we're thinking about getting a divorce, and we're going to wait until our youngest child graduates high school. They say we're thinking about getting divorced, and they say, "Well, our son is 15 years old." I say, "You got okay. You're probably going to end up holding on, just staying with each other, working it out for 3 more years. And if you don't work it out by then, you probably will get divorced." I don't need a card to see that. That kid's gonna be 18 when they do the divorce, unless there's something really seriously bad going on. If they can live with each other, they're gonna wait until he's a senior, graduated senior in high school. Then they'll do it. You see a lot of patterns that are the same situation. I'm retired. I don't know what to do, which is sad. All they ever knew how to do was their job. So really what you're helping them do is find some way, something to be inspired about. They never had that. The only way they found worth was having a job. These are just patterns you'll see. And so you know where they're going before you even throw a card over. Sometimes. Anyway, we'll see how this works. I'm going to do some people just talking about, start, give me a question or a comment, and I'll take it. If I veer from there, like I did a little bit here, that's all right. I'll just keep it going anyway. It's just going to be talk. And I'll have a playlist for this as well. Keep throwing cards. We'll talk soon. Bye.